Good morning, everyone. I'm Graeme Adams from BT, as Rufus said, and I'm joined by two of my agency colleagues today, John Wilson from Maxis and Steve Hopkins from our advertising agency, AMV. And we're going to tell you the story of BT Sport, what we did, how we did it, and crucially, why we did it as well. Now, the BT Sport channel is 20 months old currently, and we are in over 5 million UK homes and businesses. However, back in June 2012, when we bid for our first round of rights, people didn't associate BT with sport or with football. The sports broadcast market was dominated by ITV, BBC, and ESPN and Sky. BT was viewed as a telecoms company. We were about selling phones, phone lines, and broadband. However, we're not strangers to making big investments in areas which will help to grow our business. BT's success at growing profits and cash flows have meant we've been able to invest in our business and the future of our business for the long term. Now, at the heart of this programme has been our £2.5 billion investment in superfast broadband. 19 million homes and businesses already have access to superfast fibre optic broadband in the UK. That's over 2/3 of homes. It's set to grow to 80% within the next 2 years. However, in June 2012, we surprised everyone by doing this. We launched a sport channel showing Premier League games free to BT broadband customers. So why do we do it? We did it to increase top line and bottom line growth into our business. We believe that TV is the key to making the most of our investment in fibre optic broadband, as increasingly customers are looking for packages of television, broadband and voice bundled together to get better value for money and better convenience. So if you're in the business of selling broadband, which we are, you need to be in the TV market. Now, within that, market research told us that many people felt squeezed out of the sport TV market. Half of all households in the UK wanted to watch high-quality sport on TV, but of those, less than half were prepared to pay the high prices that were on offer at that time. Because of this, we believed that if we had our own sports TV property, we would find it easier to both acquire new customers and that those customers would be more likely to stay with us in the long term too. Now, clearly there was a massive amount of work went on in a programme like BT Sport, launching a property like BT Sport. It's all very well winning the rights, but we'd no presenting talent, we'd no studio, we'd no broadcast licenses, and we didn't really have that much content either, other than the 38 Barclays Premier League games that we'd won. So over the next 12 months, we hired people who knew how to make great sports TV. We hired people like Claire Balding and Jake Humphries to front our show. We hired pundits like Lawrence Dallaglio, David James and Michael Owen to help us too. We also hired people who knew how to make and set up TV studios. We took a 10-year lease out at the vast Queen Elizabeth Studios down at Olympic Park in Stratford. This place is absolutely huge. It's one of the biggest studios in Europe. We also bought ESPN, and that gave us access to the Bundesliga, Serie A, Ligue 1, France, and crucially for me and fellow sweaty socks, Scottish football, the SPL, the pinnacle of UK sport. And we won rights for Premiership Rugby as well, for the UFC and for the MotoGP. Now, it's an amazing thing to be involved in. We're very lucky. I just want to share a short video with you that tells the story of the initial months leading up to the launch and the launch itself of BT Sport Channel.
1 minute, caller. Please hold the line.
So how about hitting some action?
After 150 years of connecting people, BT connects you to an amazing new era in sports broadcasting.
This is where it all begins, on a building site in the middle of the Olympic Park, and it's going to be big. And we're live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to our new home. Welcome to BT Sport. It all starts here. Huge games and that exclusively live. And we can go pitch side whenever we like. Yes, it's the biggest game of the weekend. That's fantastic.
First ever European match for Wigan at home.
This is the new hub of the Aviva Premiership. I'm so giddy about it here. You're just putting it over the airport.
Women's tennis has never been more glamorous, more athletic. This is what we've been looking forward to. We try and just see how hard it is.
The proud owners of MotoGP from 2014. All the way to the NBA Finals. You won't miss any of the action here on BT Sport.
There's plenty more from around the globe on ESPN.
And it's not just about the live action here on BT Sport. There's a top-drawer lineup of brand new talk shows.
That'll be fine, let's just do it live.
This is the show about the good, the bad, and the downright ridiculous.
90 minutes where anything can happen. You can be cheeky as you like.
This is Bacon Caddy's VSPO, the most peculiar hours sporting discussion you'll ever come across.
They know when to switch it on. If you can spend 200 million, you're not going to replace it.
The fastest growing, most exciting sport on the planet. You're watching UFC Beyond the Octagon.
Discussing all sport.
Anything goes. Oh, you must have an opinion on that.
You enjoyed that, you're going to love this.
You haven't got the faintest idea where the place is. You don't even know what league's doing.
Everything about it is part of a contract you make with yourself to be the best you can be.
All thanks to the money that we've raised through the Supporters Club, you have helped to make this happen.
So for the best in sports entertainment, you need BT Sport.
So if you watch the channel, and I hope many of you do, you can see that we have evolved some of what we do. For example, Jake Humphrey and his presenting team don't introduce the games from the studio anymore. They go down pitch side and introduce the games live. We just felt that made for a far better TV than the initial studio show that we conceived. And also we've changed our Saturday morning lineup. We now have Darren Fletcher and Robbie Savage doing a light-hearted pre-match build-up show. Now, as I said at the start, also with me today are two of our agency partners who played a massive part in all of this. They helped to make sure we get the right messages out to the right people and that they were seen in the right places, all of which helped make BT Sport a huge success. So I'm going to hand over to Steve Hopkins from AMV, who's going to talk to you about the advertising that they created.
Thank you, Graeme. So I'll just talk you briefly through the creative challenge. The first point to make is that the role for the creative was to build a sense that BT Sport made BT as a broadband provider worth sticking around for. In short, to create desire and loyalty to BT Broadband. So although it was a kind of a sports-themed messages we were putting out, ultimately it was about trying to create a sense of loyalty, desire, and and drive sales for BT Broadband. And that's not an easy challenge. And that's not an easy challenge, given that we're kind of existing in a big, aggressive category where deals are constantly being offered by the competition, and clear cost savings can be made by people switching from one broadband provider to another. There's constantly kind of free deals happening around broadband, and so it's kind of tough to use sport as a way to try and create loyalty when, like I said, big cost savings can be made by switching broadband. I can't actually get the... Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. And it was a task that was made no easier when we started talking to sports fans in research groups, just to sort of get a sense of how we ought to be approaching things here. And the problem really was that history wasn't really on our side. We learned from talking to these guys who kind of love Sky Sports that what they've learned from previous secondary providers of sports broadcasting is that the secondary provider of sports broadcasting tends to be not that good. So and certainly in the sort of shadows of Sky Sports. So Setanta was undoubtedly a disappointment. I don't know if anyone here from Setanta, and apologies if they are. And more recently, whilst ESPN had improved things, they were still very much in Sky's shadow. The truth is, neither of these brands really had the sort of quality of fixtures or the quality of coverage to match Sky. And so we talk to consumers about BT Sport, and they refer to history and their understanding of, you know, secondary providers of sports broadcasters, and they are left with an assumption that BT Sport will be kind of yet another, you know, second-rate coverage of second-rate fixture type channel. And you know, often in these circumstances, you kind of, you know, you would lean on the brand. You would use the trust and the equity and the investment in your master brand to sort of help you through these kind of tricky times. But that wasn't really an option here because, you know, for all of BT's wonderful heritage, trust, reputation, consumers told us that the world of sports broadcasting is a kind of a completely different beast. It's basically built upon sports credentials. And as yet, BT didn't have any. Indeed, before the more recent success of BT TV, the brand had very little association at all with the broader world of content and entertainment. So you know, all these factors in mind, people were kind of, you know, left asking themselves and asking us, how good is this new BT Sport really going to be? Consumer responses became altogether more positive, thankfully, once we started talking in detail about the quality of the assets that we'd acquired. So the 38 Barclays Premier League games, which included half of the top pit fixtures, various other football leagues from around the world, and all of the Aviva Rugby Premiership, together, and crucially, with the channel assets that we were creating. So a brand new state-of-the-art studio at the Olympic Park, the like of which had never been seen before, and top lineups of popular and well-known anchors, ambassadors and pundits. And it was when we talked about both of these, when we talked about the content that we had and the channel context that we were creating, that was when attitudes began to change and credibility began to form. But crucially, it was when we talked about both of these things. It was when we talked about content and context. And the reason for this, as we believe anyway, was that when you think about people and the role of sport in people's lives, people truly love quality sport. And a channel can only really be credible if they kind of understand that and if they love it too. And BT Sport's commitment to creating a premium environment for their premium sport demonstrated to consumers that they did just that. That basically they kind of they appreciated and loved sport, and were going to do it justice via the environment that they were creating. A colleague of mine at AMV often says, with regard to BT Sport, we need to show that we've got it and that we get it. And whilst I always snigger whenever he trots that out in client meetings, I think it's actually quite a neat observation in this instance. So with all that in mind, the insight that we developed, which then formed the kind of the backbone to our creative development, was credibility in sports broadcasting is gained from people knowing you have great content and that you will present that content in a way that does justice to the importance of it in their lives. So, you know, like I've kind of said, it's about the channel having a commitment to the quality of the sport because they understand how important it is to people. And it's always then, therefore, got to be about that blend of content and context. And that was the insight which then formed our subsequent creative territory. So the creative territory was basically, what we basically did was showcase great content that BT Sport had acquired, but from within the studio world of BT. So in short, we would show content within context. The longer hand wording for the creative territory that we kind of, you know, used in definition, I'll just read out, was build credibility by showcasing the premium quality of our content from within the exciting new high-tech, high-talent world that has been created by BT Sport. And the TV ad, the launch TV spot, which we'll share now, really kind of took this very literally. It starts with Jake Humphrey, the channel anchor, who's at the Olympic Park with the stadium behind him, and he basically takes a tour through the BT Sports studio, which we kind of, you know, hyperbolized and made a bit more magical and interesting for the purposes of advertising. Sorry, I've lost my words a bit. But the principle was that he was within the world of BT Sports studio, showcasing the content of BT Sport. If we can show the ad, that'd be great.
If you love great sport, step this way. It's showtime. Prepare to be amazed. Very amazed. Come on! Okay, time for the big guns. Go. The big fellas.
Is
and the big names.
Hello.
Good guest.
Thank you.
And we're live in 3, 2, 1. With top pick Barclays Premier League matches
and all the live Aviva Premiership Rugby.
Exclusive to our new TV channels and free with BT Broadband.
There were shorter versions of that too. We like to make them long and then cut them down if we have to. So basically, you know, what that ad did was really just create a kind of a peep through the curtains of what the world of BT Sport, this kind of contextualised world of BT Sport, would be like. And then in print, we basically followed the exact same logic. So what we did do in print was create a kind of a brand world. Because it's just, you know, we didn't want every kind of visual and every kind of talent shot to be set against a studio background, because it's just too kind of busy on the eye. So we created a kind of a brand world, but the principle was exactly the same, of kind of using the talent from the channel contextualized against that branded context. And then there were a number of messages that we had to put out there. So first, you know, we needed to kind of get out there that there was a new player in the world of sports broadcasting. So this season, Sky Sports no longer have all the best games. We needed to introduce the presenters, because that's a sort of sign of our commitment and commitment to quality. So we kind of had our, you know, our kind of print that did that. So playing against kind of, you know, team lineups and that sort of stuff. We needed to also then kind of create a sense of the quality of the football matches that we had, our top picks. So exclusive thrillers and unmissables. And then we needed to introduce the idea that it was going to be free, the price proposition as well, that it was going to be free. So we started introducing the free messages, unmissable and free, and every kick free. And then basically there was a kind of an overarching thought, which was around game changing, that when you kind of add those things together, that we've got, you know, a new studio, great talent, new presenting lineup, and then it's going to be kind of premium content free. It's a game-changing proposition within the world of sports broadcasting. So game-changing was a kind of an overarching message. So that's kind of, you know, that's the kind of the principle behind creative development. What I'll now do is hand over to my colleague John, who'll explain how the campaign was executed.
Thanks, Steve. So Graeme's taking you through the business strategy about how BT Sport came to be, and Steve's touched on the creative approach. And I'm now going to talk to you a little bit about how that manifests itself in our media execution, as it's a great example, we feel, of the key themes of today's conference around context and influence. So as Graeme has already alluded to, we were entering an extremely competitive market at channel level. But this is also true of the media landscape, and that had implications for our media strategy. So our media strategy itself was to go on the offensive and to use media to punch through to immediately position BT Sport as a credible sports broadcaster. Our aim was to dominate all the environments where fans consume content, from websites through to pubs, but most importantly, and probably the reason why we're here today, is that the sports pages were the place where we could compete with our opposition and give consumers a viable alternative. As you can see from the slide behind me, we prioritised 5 key match days, taking on Sky Sports in the media environments where they were traditionally the most prevalent. So most saw the start of a strong multi-channel launch, with news brands a critical launch part of that launch. And sporting pages offered an essential environment, delivering us reach and relevance, especially among our core 18 to 54 male demographic. I'm conscious I'm being flashed out already, so I'll try and speed up. We use the relevance and influence of news brands through our key identified match days and maximise the potential contextual opportunity by dominating both front half and sports sections with 5 separate executions of tailored messaging in each section. What this domination approach meant in reality was we booked 611 insertions across 5 separate days across the national press market, which is punchy by anyone's standards. Our dominations were supported by large, impactful formats across the summer, and we ensured that whenever there was a major sporting event, such as the Lions Tour, the US Open Golf, or Test match cricket, then a BT Sport ad wasn't far behind with a highly tailored and targeted message. In addition to the scale and the impact that the weight of activity achieved, it was also key that the messaging was managed in such a way to give it a successful launch. Between AMV, BT and ourselves, we often have to move at great speed and at great detail to ensure that the right message was delivered in the right contextual environment. And in total, we booked over 1,000 individual ads across a 3-month period. Finally, to further leverage the influence of news brands, we replicated our offline approach, online, by dominating news sites' homepages with homepage takeovers on the same day. So Newsbrand, it's fair to say, underpinned our launch, but it was a part of an integrated multi-channel campaign, and I'll now take you briefly through what that was. TV gave us the opportunity to position BT in and around those key season-defining matches which we touched on before. We planned several hero 60 and 90-second spots at launch, such as the FA Cup and the Champions League final a few days later, and this was then supplemented by ongoing activity around other key passion points, such as cricket, rugby, and the Tour de France. And a further layer of TV activity was layered over the top, which was around booking appointments of you specials, which would drive mass reach of our key demographic target audience. Out-of-home activity complemented our broadcast approach with a heavyweight presence utilising both premium formats and iconic digital sites. In addition to driving scale, we announced the launch at contextually relevant sites, targeting Premiership stadiums, amateur grounds, and even going down to the granular detail of bars and sports pubs. We plan these sites in proximity to different stadiums, again utilising different creative specific to each stadium, being careful to not incorrectly book Man City copy outside Old Trafford, and probably more problematically, Celtic creative outside Ibrox. Digital activity was also launched simultaneously at this point, with 3 weeks of high-impact takeovers booked across relevant online environments, such as MSN, MSN Sport, and Yahoo. And alongside that, we ran premium display weighted around those key game days, which we have referenced. In addition to this activity, we partnered with sports video networks, running a combination of display and video activity across key Premier League environments. And this was a strategy which we went on to replicate in August for the 2 weeks prior to the new Premier League season. Finally, a national radio campaign was also planned to support the early May launch, and that was a campaign which ran throughout the summer all the way through to the 2013-14 season start. Our airtime here, in line with the rest of the campaign, was delivered around contextually relevant environments, predominantly with 2 key partners, namely TalkSport and Absolute. So within 2 months of our channel launch, at the dawn of the 2013-14 season, we had generated over 1 million subscribers. It was an impressive start, but such was the investment behind the channel, we needed more subscribers, and promoting our Premier League matches, or top picks as they are referred to, was the best way of driving channel take-up. At this point, we had to refocus our efforts on football fans and return to news brands to play an important role in the continuation of our campaign. National press provided us with an environment where we could reach a highly targeted and highly engaged audience who were seeking out the content for the very matches that we were broadcasting. We continued an ongoing strand of activity, of top picks activity, with communications reminding fans of key upcoming games. And around this time, we also went beyond traditional SEC space and entered into partnerships with both national and regional titles. We created fixture guides to tee up forthcoming top picks, but also deepen engagement with readers by showcasing BT Sport's talent and educating readers how to sign up. Finally, this was reflected within regional press, and we targeted those areas of the country that were more densely populated with football clubs, such as the North West and the North East. And I'll pass you back over to Graeme to give you a quick update on the results.
Thanks, John. So to conclude, results. The results are very positive. As planned, we are achieving top line and bottom line growth into our business due to BT Sport. Now, as you can see from this slide, revenue across the whole BT consumer division is up and has been consistently up since we launched BT Sport back in Q2 2013. We've just released results up to December 2014, and these showed that profits are up 43%. And BT Sports played a big part in this. However, our sports journey is still ongoing. Later this year, we're going to take over the Champions League rights and Europa League rights, and we've also got another 3 years of Barclays Premier League rights to come as well. And our marketing will be evolving within that journey, as well. I'd just like to leave you with our current Season 2 campaign, which we recently ran. So if you could just play that video to show the change in our advertising.
Deserved red card. Gibbs is now being sent off, but I do believe it was Oxlade-Chamberlain. What has he done there?
Chamberlain told the referee it was me.
Just a natural reaction from Chamberlain in the end. What? To Torres, into the middle, and the fourth goal, Oscar! Given away again to Oscar, he scored! Here's Salah, one-on-one, he's done it! It's 6! Chelsea absolutely rampant!
Get ready for another unmissable season on BT Sport. You have to see it to believe it.
So there we are. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. And I'd just like, before I go, to just say there's a lot of familiar faces in the audience. Thanks to everyone who works in the news brand community, because you've been a really important part of this success as well. Thank you very much.